Hey everybody, how are you? Hope you're doing well. Do me a favor. Before we get started, hit that like button. All right, so today we're going to talk about what is going on in the White House, in particular, what Trump is doing with the psychology programs. All right. So as you know, there's a lot of cuts going on. So that's the major theme is cutting waste is the major theme. All right, so we're going to get into the psychology programs, what is going on with that. So there have been major federal grant cancellations and restructuring affecting mental health and addiction services, including school-based psychology support programs. So they are essentially going after mental health programs and addiction services programs. However, some of these have been challenged in court, and there have been partial reversals and restorations. So there are actually federal judges out here that are blocking the actions. All right. So let's see. So there were programs canceled to the order of $2 billion with a B. And this was for mental health and substance abuse services nationwide. All right. This has been restored, however, due to the fighting of the lawmakers and the federal judge. All right, so let's see. What are they going after? They're going after grants that support behavioral health services, recovery support, addiction treatment, crisis intervention, workforce development, and prevention initiatives. So essentially, the population, the vulnerable population, right? So, however, they were canceled, they were terminated. However, within less than 24 hours after the termination letters went out, they were reinstated. The $2 billion with a B. It was reinstated. This was due to lawmakers, advocates, and some service providers. All right. So let's see what else is going on. So there are current attempts to cancel um, school mental health grants. All right, this area, what they would do normally is hiring. So hiring counselors, hiring psychologists, hiring social workers. So there was an attempt to cancel to the order of 1 billion with a B school mental health grants. All right, so this was blocked by a federal judge. All right, so let's see what else is going on. The Department of Education, they launched their own grants focusing on school psychologists. So we got the Department of Education out here that launched their own grants. All right, let's see. There are newer grants that are smaller and they may not fully replace what was initially allocated. So although the majority of the canceled grants were restored, they are not fully replaced based on what was initially allocated. How will this affect psychologists and people that are in this field? So, school psychologists will still be in demand. However, there will be fewer counselors and social workers that are federally supported. All right, so there's a narrowing effect. All righty. So who is the most vulnerable with what is going on? Grants that are funded by grant-funded clinics, early career academic researchers, and school counseling that is dependent on federal money. All right. However, if you are in private practice, then you will not be affected. But these are essentially anything that depends on federal funding is vulnerable. All right. So, what was terminated? So, the majority of the things that were canceled were restored and reversed, right? Due to the lawmakers, due to the judge blocking it, right? So, everything, there was a plan to cancel all of this, and it was essentially blocked to the order of billions of dollars with a B. However, there was success in terminating one area, and that is to the order of $1.8 billion with a B, and that is the NIH research grants. So the researching of mental and behavioral problems. NIH research grants terminated to the order of $1.8 billion. All right, just to recap what is going on. So the SAMHSA, that area of psychology, it was canceled and restored. All right, the school mental health grants. So that was legally challenged and some preserved. The new Trump era school mental health grants is active. The Department of Education, they have their own grants that they created. And then the NIH research grants was terminated. They were successful in terminating grants that have to do with research to the order of $1.8 billion. So the area of psychology will not be banned. School psychologists are still in demand. But like I said before, there is this narrowing effect where they are having psychologists in demand, but counselors and social workers are not in demand. All right. So there was this attempt to just go into the area of psychology and just defund it, basically. So they were not successful in doing that. But like I said before, they were successful in defunding the NIH research grants. So anything that has to do with research. And like I said before, the most vulnerable people are anyone that depends on federal funding. All right. However, if you are more in the area of private practice, things like that, then things would carry on as usual. All right. So that's what's going on. An attempt to defund psychology, behavioral health, mental health, addiction services, all of these services. The plan was to basically defund these types of services. Like I said before, it was not successful due to the fighting of lawmakers and due to the blocking of federal judge. But as I said before, they were successful in terminating the NIH research grants. So anything that has to do with research. So researching mental health problems, researching behavioral health problems, researching addiction, things like that. So that was cut to the order of $1.8 billion. All right. So any thoughts, feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you like the channel, hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button and notification bell next to it so that you will not miss an episode. Also, join the free newsletter that is in the link below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.